Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Mina Valentin Show with our host, Mina Valentin. Hi, Mina.
Hi, everybody. How are you today? Oh,
Man.
TGIF.
Oh, yeah.
Well, today I'm going to tell you all about something that you probably aren't aware of that took place. I write about England, so this would be in England, the 1800s. And it has to do with um, well, it maybe around bathroom etiquette. Yeah, when they didn't have a bathroom.
All right, I'm ready.
Well, the first thing I think that's interesting is that, there wasn't really underwear. They didn't have underwear, and women they were commando underneath, which was pretty handy when they were out. If you were at a ball, they had what they call a retiring room for the women, and they would have ladies' maids in there. And women had their own little, it was called a bourdalou, bourdalou, and it looked like a gravy boat, but it was bigger, a little heavier. And they could lift the front of the skirt and put the bourdalou under, between their legs, and then they could pee into the bourdalou, and then the ladies' maid would take it and empty it for them. So, in there, there wasn't toilet paper either, so you drip dry. But if if it, and men could just go anywhere. Uh, Typically what they did was they would go out to a garden or something and go out there. But at house parties, they usually started a house party with a dinner. And after dinner, the women would excuse themselves and they'd go into the drawing room. And the men would stay in the dining room and smoke cigars and drink brandy or whatever there was. And in the dining room, either on the sideboard or on a table, they would have piss pots for the men. And they just would go over there and keep talking and use the piss pot and keep on keeping on. um, the women, on the other hand, would have like a bedroom or a closet, and they would use that. They would still have a ladies' maid in there to help them, but they did things a little more in private. The interesting thing that I wanted to talk about too is as far as men's tailoring, because they didn't have underwear, and the style of coat for the time, they would wear like a vest, and then the top coat was cropped at the waist. It would come down, the tails would come down almost to their knees. So the front of their body was exposed. What they did to try and cover anything that might happen, as far as an erection or anything like that, their shirts were really long. Their shirts were almost as long as down to their knees. And they would take the front and tuck it, and then take the back and tuck it. So it was almost like a diaper. But when if they got excited, it was less likely to be seen. And then, of course, they always had a top hat. They could hold it in front of them or cross their legs.
Oh my goodness. Who would
But
want to live in that environment?
I don't know. Well, they did. Our forefathers did. But another thing that I think is interesting is when I was starting to do research about hygiene, physical hygiene, they soap was very expensive, very expensive. It was taxed. The government, the British government taxed soap, and so it was even for wealthy people to have a soap out somewhere was kind of like a luxury item. So they didn't use it a whole lot. Um, but wealthy people had people help. They had servants that did laundry. So if they were wealthy, they could put on a clean shirt every day, which kind of helped. And they always had a basin with a big pitcher. I think you've probably seen them in old movies, where they're sitting on a commode and it has the pitcher and they pour the water in and splash their face. That's basically what they did. Um, and the other thing that I think is kind of interesting is about 1790, 1790, 94, 97, they began to install water closets in the houses. And that was typically in the west side of London, which was the affluent side of London. And they put in probably 6,000 water closets. They converted a closet, or they put it into a bedroom. So there was a lot of things going on. Later, I think in the not late 18s, but the 1850 something, somewhere around in there, that's when underwear was first introduced. They called the women's underwear, they called drawers. And they were long, came down to the knees, and had a little opening, not a little one, a large opening, so that they could still use the bourdalou at parties. But a lot of different things were happening.
Well, I'm glad you didn't do this in your newsletter. I think bathroom etiquette would be your first newsletter.
Wouldn't that be funny? I don't know. People might be a little put off by that. What do you think?
I mean, it doesn't sound romantic, is it? Does it?
No,
Bathroom etiquette.
but you know what? I think it's interesting to think about what all they had to do. It's just, yeah.
Nothing. No.
And they didn't have zippers either. No zippers.
So you don't see that in movies where it looks like
Men
just.
had a flap, it was kind of like a rectangular flap,
Mhm.
and they either had four buttons or at least two buttons on either
Mhm.
side, and they had to unbutton all that to, but what about men today? They wear belts, right? And they wear underwear, and they have a zipper, and they have a button. And if you want to sit down in the men's room, you got to undo your belt, you got to undo the button, you got to unzip the zipper.
Mhm.
That's a lot of work.
Eh,
No,
no.
it sounds like a lot of work. Of course, I'm not a man, so I can't say for sure. Never been.
I,
I was born a woman. Thank you
so
very
I think that this is a great topic. Let's see how viral these posts go about this topic. Go to MinaValentine.com, subscribe and like the podcast, purchase her books, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Mina Valentine Show, guys.